G'day everyone, welcome back to another Power Rankings video on the channel. We are back for ranking the teams after round 10. If you're new to the Power Rankings, it's pretty simple. We rank teams based off not only current form, but just overall rankings itself. 18th being the worst, up to 1st being the best. Now, the Swannies are up and about, it must be said, and so is this man, Joel 𝐼𝐻𝐪. Have brought back the 𝐼𝐻𝐪 Party merchandise for this video. Now, I don't want to fangirl the Swannies too much in this video. We'll have a chat about each team. Feel free to leave a like and subscribe if you do come to enjoy. And let's get started. Okay, in 18th position, it's pretty simple here. Got to be going with North Melbourne. Now, there would be Richmond fans out there saying, surely we'd be last with how we have been going at the moment. And that's a fair enough point, but it's pretty straightforward. North have yet to win a game. When is that going to come? Maybe a chance against the Tigers. I'm pretty sure they play them very soon. But yeah, North, they're just unforced turnovers and how they just concede goals off the turnover and a lack of forward pressure and intensity has just let them down all these weeks. Their first half was better against Essendon, and that's what happens when they play well, play at their best. They can be a good clearance side. 𝐼𝐻𝐪 had probably his best game of the season last week, but yeah, it is still pretty meek at the moment for the Kangas. When will the first win come? Pretty straightforward. Got to be having them in last. Then in 17th position, going to be going with the Richmond Tigers here, just hammered with injury at the moment in the last few weeks. It is a shame because they have just really dropped off their scoreboard pressure and their competitiveness. Like, look how they started this season. Lost only the Blues by 5 points, then beat Sydney, but just hammered with a lot of personnel issues. I think they only have about 25 or 26 fit players. Sam Naismith again going down with another ACL injury just to add on top of that in the VFL. At least it is a good opportunity for them to play the kids, maybe get some more games in the likes of Kane 𝐎𝐴𝐿 and etc. But just in a massive rut at the moment, the Tigers. Hopefully they get some players back soon, post-bye. Got to be having them in 17th though. In 16th place, I just have to be putting the Saints here at the moment, given how well West Coast and Hawthorn have been the last few weeks. The Saints, on the other hand, apart from that win against North Melbourne, been very disappointing. What's happened to their ball movement? What's happened with their ability to score? Going inside 50, they can't hit targets. I think they're one of the worst teams in the comp on executing on forward half turnovers. So how they move the ball, yes, it's very slow. They like to control it through the uncontested style. But even the start of the year, they were moving it fast. They were winning contests at ground level in their forward half and going off it. I think the loss of Jack Higgins and Butler the last few weeks has really hurt their forward pressure. So they'll get that back in this week at least. The midfield as well has really been hurting. Jack Steele has been up and down so far this season. Ron Marshall's been a warrior though. And on top of that, just their young development this year hasn't really come through. Like, we all thought Mitch Owens was going to explode this year. As a midfielder, he's predominantly playing as a key forward. 𝐵𝐵𝐼, what's happened with him? He needs a bit of a spell in the Magoos. But I just think overall their goal scoring ability has really let them down. They can't score. So for me, I've got to be having them in 16th. In 15th place here, I'm going to be going with the West Coast Eagles. Well, geez, how about this? At home, they're now starting to build the fortress. Apart from their 6-point loss against the Bombers, ever since they did knock off the Tigers at home, they've been brilliant. And Harley Reid has been able to shine through and produce some inspirational and amazing individual moments. I mean, how about that goal from the centre bounce brushing off Petrarca? That was a cracker. But not only is it just Harley Reid, it's just the resurgence of their veterans, like Jeremy McGovern off the back of just injury depleted season after season. He's been awesome in the air with his intercepting game. Jake Waterman is probably one of the best comeback players of this season. He was almost having to retire with, I think, a stomach issue. He has been marking everything inside 50, and another game off the back of 5 goals. Even some youngsters like Brady Hoff has been doing his job on small forwards back there too. Their clearance game has been impressive overall this season as well. So how will they go away from home though? Because that has been their kryptonite. But yeah, they've been really improving, and yeah, I tell you what, they're playing some exciting football when they do play at Optus. 14th position, I am going to be going with Hawthorn here. Now, ever since their 76-point loss against Sydney, where they did win the inside 50s throughout stages of that game, their just ground level game and their contest game is heavily improved the last few weeks. And I said this at the start of this season, and I think the last Power Rankings video too. The wins will eventually come for Hawthorn. They're usually a team that plays better as the season goes on, like last season, for example. And look at it now. They have been quite impressive, knocking off the likes of the Bulldogs and also the Saints down there in Tassie and really should have won against Port Adelaide. So I think they'll continue to be a thorn in good team side. Forward to centre without Mitch Lewis, maybe 𝐴𝐿𝐴 𝐸𝐴 𝐷𝐸 has been a revelation, very good player overhead. And the likes of 𝐬𝐞 and 𝐎𝐴𝐿𝐴 now starting to show more consistency. And they'll still get back in James Sicily and 𝐸𝐴𝐿𝐴 for at least this week. So they are starting to improve. I think their ground ball game is first in the competition. So they're really dominating that area. And yeah, they are improving. So they are out of the bottom four for me. Got them in 14th. 13th position, I just have to be going with the Adelaide Crows here. Now, their upside is as good as any of the teams above them, I'd say. There's still a chance, I think, for finals. They match up really well against the Pies and could have pinched that one, but another close defeat really did hurt them. But their profile the last few weeks is really improving. You know, just their ball movement and their execution inside 50 let them down a little bit last week, but the numbers are in the green. They're heading in the right direction. I think Matt Crouch has been very underrated this year. His extraction from the contest has been good. Dawson is now starting to put together some very good games as well. Shame about Izak Rankine though, because he's just a lock for the small forward in the All-Australian. He has been awesome the last few weeks as well. So they just need wins. Simple as that, Adelaide. They need to start putting on the premiership points and push up the ladder, because they're certainly capable of doing so. Like even behind the footy, I think Mark Keane and a few of those defenders, Michael Annie, have been very good this season too. So the question for them is, can they continue to get the wins and keep up those good numbers of ball movement and execution inside 50? So I got them in 13th. In 12th place, going to be going with the Gold Coast Suns here. Now, another team where you could argue you could put them up a little bit higher. I mean, they've won their last 2 games in Darwin by a convincing margin off the back of their highest score ever against the Cats. And geez, how about that? Their midfielders, when they're up and about, their midfield is as good as any team's. It was remarkable watching that game against the Cats. Behind the ball, I think they're going quite okay too. In fact, they are top 4 for restricting goals per inside 50. Sam Collins has been very underrated this season one-on-one, and even Ballard has had some nice intercepting moments. Flanders behind the ball has been picking apart targets and collecting plenty of the football. And they're up there as a very strong clearance side too. Question on them though is, can they do it south of the border? They are yet to pick up a win this season outside of Queensland. So it's a big test this week against the Blues, but I've got to be having them 12th because there's just a few teams above them that I rate a little bit higher in terms of how they can go in terms of pushing for finals. But yeah, promising signs for the Suns. Consistency though is the big thing for them, but I've got them in 12th. In 11th place here, I am going to be going with the Brisbane Lions, just up and down this season. I mean, injuries have really hurt their squad, and, you know, no Cadet and Coleman behind the footy continues to hurt, and they'll still get back in Will Ashcroft. But, yeah, just inconsistent at the moment. They have been either getting killed apart in defensive transition like against the GWS Giants, but the last few weeks has been better for them. The win against Gold Coast in the Q Clash would have given them some confidence, and honestly really should have won that game against Adelaide. I mean, they were 2 or 3 goals in front and were intercepting like crazy behind the football, but pretty much let that game slip and cost them 2 points. And yeah, off the back of a massive win against the Tigers, what does it tell for them in the next few weeks? But when you look at the maturity of the squad, still the talent they have available on that side, you just expect them to start churning out the wins and start building the fortress again at home. The likes of Lachie Neale and Josh Dunkley usually have very good back halves of the season, so it's the likes of them to lead this squad, with a few of the young players are now starting to play a bit more, like Bruce Revel. Kai Lohmann's also getting a consistent crack at it too. They'll get back in Zach Bailey, so I'm keen to see what they'll do in the next few games of Lions, and can they start to build the wins. So got them currently in 11th. In 10th place here, I am going to be going with the Western Bulldogs. Just been very up and down this season, and given that they have lost against some of the top teams, they've beaten up on some of the teams ranked below them. Sitting at 11th place on the ladder is pretty much where they are at the moment, but they do have the upside to push up into the top 8 with the talent they do have. But what I've noticed more with the Dogs is they are playing a lot more of the youth, like Harvey Gallagher and Joel Freyer and Sam Darcy. Luke Beveridge is really evident on putting more games into these sort of younger players, improving that bottom 6 profile of their best 22. Behind the footy, Liam Jones, I think, has been very underrated this year. His intercepting game has been, in fact, quite elite, I might say. And their last few weeks, they are actually ranked number 1 in the competition from points from stoppage. So, yeah, the midfield is now starting to improve. It's just the question of how are they going to go in terms of consistency? Because they'll pull you in, you'd be like, wow, they played some great footy one week, and then the next week they just fall on their face and just get destroyed. So it's a massive test against the Swans, but 10th position, that's pretty much where they're at the moment. They play some good games, they play some bad games, meeting them in the middle at 10th. In ninth place here, I'm going to be going with the GWS Giants. What a disappointing last few weeks of footy from the Giants, eh? The last 3 games, I've dropped all of them ever since that Swans game where they had a disappointing second half. Love loss to the Bombers and also the Dogs. And I tell you what, they're just really soft around the contest at the moment. They are just getting killed in the middle and also on the outside game. They're ranked bottom 4 for conceding the most amount of points from turnover and also from defensive half. They are just a very easy team to score against at the moment. They're soft and their ball movement is really stifled. They're just losing that dare and that ability to score very efficiently from it. So they need a bit of a reset at the moment. I doubt Tom Green's 100% at the moment off that ankle injury. But we all know they made a prelim last year. They're a very talented team. They're a side that we can definitely see them go deep, and they are still sitting at 6th position. So don't want to be too reactive and put in below 10th. So I've got them at 9th at the moment, and just a few teams above them I think are going better. We move up into the top 8 now, and in 8th place I'm going to be going with the Fremantle Dockers here. Now I was considering putting them actually a little bit higher, but they're probably sitting around this 8th position. They are number 2 in the competition for points against, so their defensive profile has been pretty good. Luke Ryan and Josh Draper's had a past few good weeks, I might say, as well, and of course Alec Pearce has been in somewhat all-Australian form. But yeah, apart from that, disappointing loss against the Swans, but it was a tough night for the footy club. Of course, condolences to Cam McCarthy. Their effort was very good, and they're just the accuracy. Their accuracy and execution in front of goal has really let them down. It feels like whenever a miss or Pat Voss is taking a set shot, they're just missing most of the time. The Dockers are actually ranked number 1 in the competition for stoppage clearances. They are beating their opponents convincingly in that area. I mean, Brayshaw and Sarong, he's having a fantastic season. So I think their midfield is doing quite well, and the defensively, I think that's sound too. It's just forward of the ball. The forward issues, again, are probably hurting them at the moment with their ability to put on scoreboard pressure. But it's going to be a big test against the Pies. Injury-ravelled Pies this Friday, but they're definitely potential to make finals football this season. Got them in 8th. In 7th place here, I'm going to be going with the Melbourne Demons. They have been up and down so far this season. Last month of football, they were able to beat the Tigers when they were down at half-time, let's remember. Now, that was a great win against Geelong. Just defensively, they were excellent. That's where we see the Demons at their best. When they defensively set up behind the football really well, they're a tough team to beat. Just how they methodically worked their way up the ground was great against Geelong and picked apart their targets nicely. And then that 1-point loss after being goalless at quarter time, and now they are certainly being pushed down the power rankings after probably their worst loss under Simon Goodwin in quite some time. Just so soft around the contest. They didn't want it. Their intensity was poor. Defensively, they were killed through the middle of the ground as well. So they are now showing some inconsistencies, but still got to be putting them in 7th because they are a talented team. They've got a lot of seasons bodies like Petrarca, Oliver Gawn, Stephen May. Leave it down for the next 6 weeks is massively going to hurt them though, and their forward issues have been a concern too. So when will they be able to fix that up? Petty's been up and down a little bit. Van Rooyen currently, I think, off the back of a concussion, so he needs to come back in the team. So I still think long-term the Demons should find a way to pick up enough wins because they're a very good home and away season side, but just forward of the ball, it is letting them down. So they still got to push for that top 4 spot. At the moment, though, they've been inconsistent, got them in 7th. In 6th place here, I'm going to be going with the Carlton Blues. Now, it's hard for me to put the Carlton at 6, and you probably are thinking, why on earth would you have the Blues 6 while they are sitting in 10th? Well, they did beat Melbourne, and I thought they should have won that game by 3 to 4 goals. They were excellent on that game the other week ago, so I have them above Melbourne for that reason. And also because they are a team that should be pushing for top 4 and should be pushing for a good spot in the finals. And look, I still think injuries are hurting them. Their biggest issues, Carlton, has been not only their inconsistency, but also their forward pressure and their gap between their best and worst players, like their bottom 6 of their best 22, is usually not so great. So with the likes of 𝐓𝐡𝐞 going down, Motlop and also Fogarty, like those important forward pressure players, with the absence of them, that's just been the big struggling point, I think, for Carlton. And alongside that, of course, inconsistency has really hurt them too. I think defensively they've been picked apart way too easily the last couple of weeks. They were beaten very convincingly by the Swans in their own good game of stoppage and their midfield craft too. So they'll lick their wins though, the Blues. They are still a talented team. Back at Marvel this week, they should find a way to beat the Suns. So I still don't want to be too reactive on the Blues. They should be a team that's pushing for finals, but if they let things slip out of hand a little bit, it could be alarm bells ringing for the Blues, but currently got them in 6th. In 5th place here, I'm going to be going with Port Adelaide. Again, similar to Carlton, you're like, Riley, they should have lost against the Hawks. They would have been outside the 8 if they lost that game. I know, but literally, look at 5th to 10th. It is just a logjam at the moment. All these teams are hard to get a gauge on. So I just got to be going with Port here simply because they are sitting 7-3 and are in the top 4 and are still a talented team that should push well throughout the remainder of the home and away season because they are a good side in the regular season. Port Adelaide, they are one of the top teams on generating scores off turnover and also off intercept. They are a very good forward half side as well. So yeah, they're just in a bit of a lull at the moment with inconsistency. Let's remember though, they did have probably one of their best wins under Ken, knocking off the Cats at 𝐓𝐡𝐿𝐵. The last time they did that was 2007. With the absence of Rosie, I think Jason Horne-Francis has been their best player the last few weeks, really improving his production and his clearance numbers have been through the roof. So I still think Port Adelaide at their best are a very damaging team, and just where they're sitting at 4th at the moment on the ladder, got to be putting them at 5th. 4th place now, I'm going to be going with the Essendon Football Club. What a last 5 or 6 games from them. Ever since they dropped that game against Port Adelaide, they've been winning and playing much better football. That close win against Adelaide down there in Adelaide. The draw against Collingwood, I probably felt they should have won that game. Langford really should have kicked the winner. I'd almost count that as a win. Resilient win against the Eagles. They're a tough team to beat over there in Perth at the moment, West Coast. And off the back of just a job done win against North Melbourne. Mentally, this is what I've been saying all season long. I think they're now a mentally tougher side. And this has been the issue for them, Essendon. Because the second halves of the season have been letting them down the last few years. But they're just a much more tougher team and their intensity's been great. Midfield has been top 4 worthy. Zach Merritt has been leading the line so well. And also just their role players are really starting to come through. Sam Durren's having a breakout season. Jai Caldwell's having a breakout season. I think Todd Goldstein has been up there for one of the recruits of the season. No Sam Draper, but Goldstein, just his ruckcraft is so underrated. I think he's huge to their stoppage game. And Ben Mackay as well behind the footy has looked very sound too. And of course their forward half weapons, don't get me wrong about that. Kyle Langford and also Stringer have been excellent this season. Gresham's forward pressure and just his craft has really been important to how they've been able to score as well, the Bombers. So they're currently sitting 2nd at the moment. I will put them at 4th though because there are questions on how will they continue to go, but they are ticking the boxes at the moment, 7-2, and I've got some winnable games coming up the next few weeks. I've got the Tigers this Saturday, but yeah, they've been flying, the Bombers, got them in 4th. In 3rd place here, I'm going to be going with the Geelong Football Club. Now, yes, they've lost their last 3 games and they've looked a little bit far from it, but they were still able to kick 100 points against the Suns, and I think their ball movement and how they can score with just that unselfish play and just that very cohesive brand they are able to string together when picking apart targets has been good, but what's been letting them down is just their contest in their defence. Signs of last year, I mean, with no Dangerfield, they've just been eaten alive in the midfield the past 2 weeks. That's their biggest concern, with a lot of young bodies in there, with the likes of Tanner Bruin and Jai Clark and etc. Behind the footy, Tom Stewart's been well negated, Jack Henry, and also Collie Jasny has had some shaky moments too. But when you still look at the Cats long term, they're a side that manages plays very well, and they still have a lot of games at 𝐓𝐡𝐿𝐵 to finish off the remainder of the home and away season. Just because of the team they are and how they started this season, they should find ways to pick up wins. But I tell you what, if the midfield wells do continue for them, there are dangers of them pushing out of the top 8. But currently sitting at 3rd in the moment, going to be putting them at 3rd on the power rankings. In 2nd place here, got to be going with the Collingwood Football Club. For sure, they are looking like they are back. And really, after their poor 0-3 start, they have started to now string together some good wins. And just look at that. I'd almost say their premiership profile looks to be back. Their intensity, their pressure has been through the roof. And just the signs of last year too, whenever the ball is in congestion, just how they can get rid of it quickly and open up, and their ability to spread from congestion has been outstanding to watch. Behind the footy, they're now starting to play stronger. Darcy Moore and Frampton have been good behind the ball. Nick Dacos has had some 3-vote worthy games the last month or so now. Jack Crisp as well, through the middle, he is now back. He's playing some awesome footy too. So a lot of individual players are now starting to pick up their slack and play much better footy, and that's lifting the team too. They're a very well-drilled and a well-coached side, of course, as well, so they'll be definitely at the pointy end, I think, this season, the Pies. currently sitting 5th, but just like 2022, if they just continue that strong profile of defence and pressure and intensity and just how they can move the ball, they'll for sure push up in the top 4. But just how they're going with current form, it's hard to put them outside the top 2. They're clearly the second best team in the competition at the moment, I do feel. And in first position, I don't want to be too smug, but come on, it's got to be pretty clear here. The Swans are currently flying. They are the #1 team in the competition at the moment. Ever since that loss against the Tigers, they've just been picking up wins, and their winning margins have been disgustingly good. They've won every single game over 3 goals this season, so they've been doing it in style. Their pressure has been elite, and they've been able to score a lot of goals off turnover from it. They're the #1 team on points off turnover. They're the #1 team on points from defensive half. They restrict teams really well too. I think defensively they've been very sound. They're actually ranked #1 in the comp for conceding points from stoppage and also turnover. So yeah, they're a really restricted team just because of that pressure, and also their ability to move the football through the corridor, and their midfield game has been outstanding too. Like Chad Warner, 𝐼𝙗𝐿𝐴𝐻𝐸, the score involvements through the midfielders have been outstanding. They've kicked a lot of their goals from mids, and even Brodie Grundy, his ground level work has heavily improved the Swans stoppage game. I think they're currently top 4 for stoppage differential. So yeah, for the Swans, quite simply, it's just a mixture of the experience they've had in the off-season, the role players, and also just a natural growth of a lot of those young players like McInerney, Rowbottom, also Chad Warner. They've really improved those numbers, Errol Gulden too. Everything's just clicking at the moment for the Swans, and the continuity as well. They don't really have many injuries. They're flying at the moment, the Swannies. They are #1 team in the comp for sure. So everyone, there are my power rankings for the end of round 10 of the 2024 AFL season. As I've said throughout the video, I think the gap sort of probably I'd say around 5th to 11th or 10th is just a logjam at the moment. You could probably switch teams around, so let me know your power rankings down below in the comments. Always love to hear your people's opinions, but it's an exciting next few weeks of footy. We'll be able to see who can take some scalps. But yeah, hopefully you did enjoy, everybody. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you did go on to enjoy today's video. And until next time, I will talk to you later. See you later, fellas.